Hi there. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of May in Sydney, Australia, and we have a beautiful day today. It is exceptional outside. If we haven't met, my name is Yanni Burmeister. To my left is Richard Lillies. We are Unity Gym and the Unified Movement System, or UMS, where we turn driven people into strong, flexible, fit athletes. Today, we're going to be talking about how to start exercising again after the VID, or in general, after you've been ill and had some time away from exercise. Anything that knocks you about, these strategies or methods will help with. And this conversation comes off the back of a couple of questions. We've had quite a few of our tribe members in the UMS online coaching group um, have time away due to illness because of this. And let's face it, a lot of people probably have. It can knock you about. It affects people differently. Rad was very ill recently. His whole family had it, and what we need to understand is that there are certain things that you can and can't get away with, and certain methods and strategies that you should use to reintroduce yourself to intense exercise, so that you don't, one, hurt yourself because you breach your load capacity, and two, um, run yourself down again and affect your immune system, because different intensities of exercise affect the immune system and the body's ability to produce the white blood cells and things like that at different levels. So we're going to dive into it, have a discussion. Hopefully, this helps you guys. Hopefully, there's a few people out there that will find value or benefit in this and can sort of deploy some of these methods. Before we do get started, though, as always, if you're watching on YouTube, please do us a favor and smash that like button. It does help us hack the YouTube algorithm and get this content out in front of more people. And as always, welcome to the tribe. If you like this sort of content, consider subscribing. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like it. And welcome to everyone in the Movement Mastermind Facebook group watching live. If you haven't already and you're on YouTube or on the podcast, jump over to the UMS Movement Mastermind. There's a link in the description of this video. That's where you get a lot of our cool stuff for free, like our 20-minute flexibility routine, UMS warm ups, all sorts of stuff. And you also get an opportunity to work with us for free for 5 days in our 5-day flexibility challenge. It runs every month at the start of the month. How are you, Richard?
Right, Yanni, like you said, lovely sunny day outside. Always makes you feel good when it is.
Yeah, it's a cracker today. I'll tell you what. There's this time of year over here in the south, I guess you say, the southern hemisphere, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's coming into winter, and there's this period of time in autumn where the air is just crisp and the blues in the sky are just incredible when you get a nice clear day like it is out there. So enjoy it while it lasts. Okay, so we've had a couple, most recently, a couple of questions from our tribe members who are doing our UMS online coaching who have been off ill. And you do have to excuse me. We're going to navigate this without using the terminology, because I do know that you can get red flagged by these social platforms because they think that you're spreading or misinformation or whatever else. And so we're going to try and bounce around without actually saying it. Uh, we'll see how we go. But you guys know what we're talking about, right? And so, a lot of people are affected very differently by it, first and foremost. Some people have it and really, say that it's nothing more than a sort of a light cold or whatever else. Others like Rad and Richard and my business partner, my brother, his family get absolutely walloped by it, and it really affects them. And we've seen that within our tribe. We're very fortunate to have um, thousands of people around the world working with us on different levels, and so they report in with their experiences all the time. We're constantly communicating with them within our various different groups, including the Movement Mastermind group. And we we've seen that some people get really knocked about by it, and in some cases there's lasting effects for months and months and months afterwards. And anyone who exercises, the one thing that's probably more demoralizing than gaining weight and getting out of shape when you don't exercise, is that happening when you do exercise regularly? When you are used to exercising regularly, it's like anything, you get used to what's happening on a chemical and hormonal level inside your body, with the endorphins. Every time we exercise, we recharge with endorphins. We are stimulating hormones and chemicals in the body that become somewhat addictive, and you get used to operating on that level. And then when you remove that, when the rug's pulled for a one of generally two reasons you get a really serious rug pull, is when you get injured quite seriously, or you get really seriously ill, and you are off, for whether it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you have to come back, and you find that your nervous system, your energy levels, all sorts of different things in the body are really, really struggling to get to meet the expectations that you have based on prior output, based on prior capacity, based on prior, most importantly, load capacities. And then you face a whole heap of emotional hurdles, psychological hurdles that you've got to get over, as well as the physical. And so the very first thing to understand, I think, is that if you have been knocked about by illness, you've got to reassess everything, and you've got to, it's not starting again, because there is this element of muscle memory, and it's actually quite true. There's been a lot of studies done on this, where it's not just the coordination factors, the nervous system understanding the movements that you were doing before and the types of exercise. There are chemical muscle memory factors as well. Your body adapts to the stimulus differently after you've done it before. So uh, it's not like you're starting again, but you do have to take into consideration that any absence longer than about a week or 7 days from exercise, especially if you've been training at a very high intensity before with resistance training, you will have to readjust your expectations on what you can get away with. Otherwise, you're likely to breach your load capacity, which generally leads to an injury, whether it's an acute, sudden injury, or whether it's an overuse injury that happens over time. And the other thing to take into consideration is that this specific illness has a tendency to attack the cardiovascular system and the central nervous system in different ways than we've seen before. And you can run into trouble. You can run into issues with your cardiovascular system, uh, becoming more stressed when you exercise. If you're someone who's used to doing very high intensity cardio workouts, running, whatever it might be, and you try to go back to that, it can cause problems. My doctor, family doctor for many, many years, was a recreational triathlete, and he tried to get on his bike and go for a ride after recovering, and had a cardio episode, and ended up in hospital. And you've got to be, you've got to be careful. You've got to take this into consideration. But that doesn't mean that you should, discount the importance of reintroducing exercise. It just has to be done at the right pace. Richard, what do you think? How you got quite ill a few months ago?
Yeah.
How did you go reintroducing exercise?
Fortunate enough for me, that was like holiday period. So for me, like training wasn't like priority. And after I sort of waited that quarantine period out, I sort of took the time off to actually go home and see family. And for me, taking that week off was perfectly fine out of training. And then I came back. And then by that point, I was pretty much over it. I only had a lingering cough. So for me, like when I actually had it, it was, I won't say severe, but it was definitely not as mild as I thought it was going to be. And then, like, during that first week, it was pretty much hell. And then following that, the symptoms died down. I started to regain energy. Um, and I guess it just sort of ended up being like a normal cold or flu, where you've got this lingering chest cough. And at that point, after I took that week two off training, then I started to get back into it. And at that point, I like you said, didn't start back where I was previous to getting it. I started first out with a lot lighter loads, a lot less volume of those loads, and my workouts were just a whole lot shorter. You know, but the thing that I did was I was frequent and I was consistent as well. So I did go most days, Monday to Friday. But again, everything else was checked, like the intensity, the volume, and just how long the sessions were in general. And I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb for most people to follow when they're starting to get back into it, not expecting the same thing that they did before they got sick.
And how long do you think it took you until you were back at the same capacity that you were before? Are you back at the same capacity you were before now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been months since I've had it. How long did it take? I would probably say a good couple weeks of training before I was back to the same volume. Strength returns pretty quickly, but again, it's like that respiratory thing. Like you're really taxed. You're really exhausted from doing just a small amount of work in your workout. So I think that has to sort of take a little bit of time to recover. So yeah, if you're an endurance athlete, someone that loves going to the gym for multiple hours, even like a strength athlete that loves going to the gym for multiple hours, you're going to expect that those sessions are going to be a lot harder to maintain at the same intensity as you once did. So again, like have low expectations and then slowly build that up over a few weeks, I think. And if you do that, if you're consistent and frequent with it, like you'll be back to normal self within a month, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And I think there's, we're going to talk about the psychology side of things in a second. I want to pre-frame first and foremost that I do not want to upset anyone, because if you are feeling really beat down and struggling to get going again, the purposes of this discussion is to motivate, not make you feel worse. But you also do have to be very careful by stigmatizing yourself and sort of putting yourself into a pigeonhole of compromise
Mm,
because
yeah.
you've been ill. Because, I'll remind you, like very recently I watched, it wasn't recently, it was a couple of months back, we watched the Australian Open tennis tournament here, and there was quite a few athletes there competing. And tennis, in my opinion, is it's got to be one of the hardest cardiovascular games to play, because there's just no escaping it. And sometimes you get games that go on for hours and hours and hours in the middle of the night. Some of the games weren't finishing until 2, 3 in the morning, and yeah, and they go for 4 hours. Like these players are just absolutely, and you just only have to see how much they're sweating to
Mm,
imagine how much energy these guys are consuming and burning. And there was a number of players that I followed through there who were coming back after being quite ill with the VID, and they all spoke about it and said it was really hard and and difficult, but it is possible. It is possible. And the difference between an elite level athlete like that and you and me and everyone else is that they just have an ability to step outside of themselves, look at things from a macro perspective, and not allow those, however they do it, whether it's through a psychologist, whether they have a sports psychologist with them, I'm sure a lot of them do, but they do have an ability to overcome these mental hurdles better than anyone else. And what I believe we can draw from that is that it is possible, and so it is very important that you do not just approach your recovery from a physical level, but you also approach it on an emotional and psychological level, and say, okay, this has happened, but I need to move on from this now. This does not mean that I'm compromised forever, that it's going to affect my exercise forever, And I know that Richard is very good at that, and you've got to, like, you Richard and Rad both served in the military. They've been infantry soldiers. They've got very strong-minded people, very strong-willed, very strong-minded. There's seldom something that I've seen that will get Richard down for very long. I think I could count how many times he's had a sick day in 10 years on one hand, but but that doesn't mean that you guys can't do the same thing. That doesn't mean that you guys can't be back up operational after a few weeks or 4 weeks. But it just really matters that you have a strategy and that you come at it with, because if you come at it with the same intensity and velocity that you were training at before, you're likely to really get yourself beat up emotionally that you can't perform at that level straight away. You'll either injure yourself or you'll just tap out with your cardiovascular fitness and things like that and just go, oh, why aren't I, why, woe is me? And then you'll feel worse, But if you come at it with a strategy like Richard, where he's halved his intensity, he's halved his volume, he's probably given himself more rest between sets and reps and things like that. And, really focused on, yeah, this is a period of time that is going to be short lived, but I'm going to move through it. Then you too can certainly be up and at full capacity, in a number of weeks. And I think that that's really important. To sort of come at it from both the physical and mental perspective.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things, like you said, is the mental aspect of just getting that routine going again. Because again, like after a couple of weeks off, that exercise, it's weird. Like when you're doing it and you're in a good rhythm, you love it, and you're like, I can't think of stopping. But then when you do stop, it's so hard to get back into. Like you go, oh no, I gotta go to the gym again. Like that mind is telling, like that one side of your mind is telling you, oh no, not the gym. When in reality, you love it. So like the setting that habit again is so important, and even if it's a small step, like going for a walk for half an hour or less, and just starting there and then building up on that, I think it's still so vital
Yeah.
to getting that habit going.
Time block in your calendar, time block the time. We've got a couple of comments on the YouTube channel here, agreeing with the fact that exercise becomes such an important part of your life. And you mean starting over again with low intensity practice? Yes.
Yeah,
You not just intensity though, like the intensity, the amount of weight that you can lift for a set or a rep will come back fairly quickly. It's the volume that we try to cram into a 60-minute or 90-minute workout that becomes the real problem. And so, what I tend to do, if it's from injury or illness coming back, returning, is that I just give myself the goal to get half the volume done. Usually I might do 5 sets of an exercise, of 4 to 6 exercises, 4 to 5 sets. I'll go and say, all right, for the first week, I'm just going to aim to get 2 sets of everything done. And I often even change my program split. When I'm struggling with work life balance or whatever else, I'll often switch to doing body composition workouts, which mean training your whole body in one workout, less volume on each, but more consistently, more
yeah,
more frequently. So, and I find that really, really successful, because then with every workout, I feel like I've got a lot done, when in hindsight, I haven't got as much volume on each specific muscle as I would normally do on a bodybuilding split, or a strength development, maximal strength development split. But you still feel really rewarded by those workouts, And when you're coming back into training after a period away, 2 sets of each exercise is plenty
yeah.
enough to get a result. It's probably meeting your volume requirements nicer than 4 to 5 sets. And so there are these different strategies that you can use, and I'd say, you know, the most important thing is that you just start by immediately time blocking time to get into your workouts again, into your calendar. If you're not using a scheduling time blocking method, then look into that. It's just so good for productivity hacking, and make sure that your workouts are in that calendar. At Unity Gym here, we use GCal, Google Calendar, because we use the Google Work Suite. And it's like every one of us has a time block allocation in our calendar every single day for movement, for exercise, whether it's mobility, stretching, flexibility training, cardio, strength training, strength and flexibility at the gym. It doesn't matter. It's just time blocked in the calendar, and nothing gets in the way of that. It's 100%. Once it's in the calendar, that's it. And we use that for everything we do. And that's, I think, the first step. Make that time for yourself. Make sure that everyone else around you, your family, your work colleagues, your boss, whatever, is on board with that. and then go in with like 50% expectations. Halve the volume that you were doing, not the time that you're at the gym, the volume, the amount of reps that you're planning to do, and the total weight lifted that you're planning to do, and just
Mm,
increase the rest periods so that each new set you're fresh, you can execute form technique well. If you're used to running 10Ks, then aim to run 5 and do it in intervals instead of the whole way. So
yep,
you get a kilometer of run, kilometer of walk, kilometer of run, and just recondition the body again. You know,
yep,
give your body a chance to get up to speed again. Because often your intention and your goal will be far beyond what your body and your load capacity is ready for, and that's okay. It's okay to set that big goal and set that intention, but just give yourself 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to get there again, and
yep,
layer it and use progressive overload. Progressive, if you don't know what progressive overload is, join our movement mastermind, ask the question or ask in the comments here on YouTube, or on the podcast, and we'll explain it to you. But these things are all really, really important. And it's the most important thing is that you just get started
yep,
again as quickly as possible, and even if you're still not feeling well, it can be really, really moderate, low intensity stuff. A great example of that is, if you join the UMS Movement Mastermind group, we have our 10-minute warm up routines for the upper and lower body, which are actually a really great routine to get started with if you're not well, or really starting from a low base of conditioning. And then we have our 20-minute flexibility routine, which is a 20-minute done for you follow along routine with an additional tutorial to teach you all of the movements. And that's free in the Movement Mastermind. You just jump over, join the group. You have to apply. It's a private group. We'll let you in, and then you can access those. And they're great. They're two great ways of getting your body moving again, introducing exercise again at a really nice, moderate to low intensity. And then from there, you can start adding back workouts, adding back a full split, a full weekly split. The most important thing is that you just get started, because the longer you stay on the sidelines, the more you'll likely beat yourself up, and the more self perpetuating that sort of spiral of feeling really out of shape, feeling really miserable will kick off.
yep. Agreed.
Closing comments, Richie.
Maybe just one thing that we didn't really say. This was, I mean, this conversation was very sort of geared towards the end of people that, are struggling to start exercising again. There are like a portion of people out there that just don't want to give it up no matter what, that are happy to sweat it out and really push themselves too early, too soon. And I just wanted to say, like, I think that sort of mentality in these situations is probably very dangerous, and that you should really like accept the fact that it's okay to take some time off from exercise, and it's okay to regress and chill out for a little bit and build it back up. Because I know there's a lot of people that I've met in my life that try to train through their sicknesses, try to get back into it too early, too soon, and I don't think especially this type of issue is something that you should be doing that with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
There's
it's okay.
always there's
It's okay
there's
to
al-
chill out.
I 100% agree. There's always little things you can do. You could adopt like the squat challenge and try to improve your squat mobility, which is very low intensity because you're just sitting still, and read a book for the hour that you usually train to train your brain.
Yep.
Do some sort of personal development book, or learn something. If you wanted to improve a different area of your life that's not associated with your physical body, then go and grab a book and read that for the couple of weeks that you can't train. Like, use the time, because you'll still feel like you're progressing. It's about being 1% better every day, right? And you can level up in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be physical training. And I
Yep.
agree 100%. Yeah.
You can plan your next program.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
There you
All right.
go. All right, guys, that's all we got time for. We got to jump in and give our UMS coaching tribe their daily dose of coaching and technique support. And we will see you tomorrow. It's Physio Wednesday tomorrow, so we're going to have Phil White from ADPT Physio on, and we may even continue this discussion. See how we go. Take care.
You guys.